Hello and welcome to this training video for the Pearson-set assignments for RQF Higher Nationals. In this session, we'll be looking at the purpose of the Pearson-set. We'll talk about the timeline for release of themes and topics. We'll look in some detail at writing an assignment for the Pearson-set, consider how we might integrate employer briefs, and we'll close with looking at support material. The purpose of the Pearson-set is to create a common reference point across all HN centers and a consistent framework for assignments and results to be evaluated across the entire subject. Remember that Pearson Higher Nationals are internationally standardized qualifications, and therefore we were looking for a way to better create a benchmark that we could use to consider good practice across the range of subjects. And that good practice will be something that our external examiners look for when they come to visit. And they'll be looking at assignment design, assessment practice, employer engagement, and even student work, and maybe even other areas. And hopefully, because you will have been working on the same Pearson-set theme and topics for that year, examples of good practice will be more relevant to you. You'll be able to see why they are good practice because they will relate to the same things that you've been looking at. So the Pearson-set timeline is based around the release of the theme and topic. The theme and topic will be released annually in March and will become live in September. That means you have from March until September at least to develop your assignment. You can release your assignment after September. September is the first point at which the theme and topic released in March will be live. That theme and topic released in March, so in our example here, the theme and topic released in March 2019, will remain active until September 20. And in March of 2020, a new theme and topic will be released, and it will become live the following September. So you can see we always have an overlap between the previous theme and topic, which is still active, and the new theme and topic, which is introduced. We're always looking to make sure you have as much time as possible to develop your assignment and run your assignment within the theme and topic released the previous March. With the theme and topic issued in March, you do have, as I say, at least until September to plan. So what do you need to consider? Well, you need to ask yourself the question of when are you going to start delivery of the unit? And that will relate to timetables as well as what kind of assignment you're developing and how long that will take. How long will the unit run? How much time are you going to give for the delivery and for the students to complete the work? What resources do you need to teach the unit, and what resources will the student need? You need to make sure that students have access to sufficient resources to complete the assignment within the time given. And will you be linking the assignment with any local employers? While this is a great idea, keep in mind that that may add additional time needed in the planning and development of the assignment. The themes and topics are really about how you define the context for the assignment. So at level 4, you have the theme and you have individual topics. And you as the tutor will choose one of those individual topics as the basis for building your assignment. The reason for using a specific topic at level 4 is we want students to be able to get started immediately. We don't want students to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the topic is about or what the theme is about. We want them to get started on that immediately. Whereas at level 5, we can expect students to have a better understanding of how to undertake research, and therefore they can work within the theme itself to identify their own specific topic. And if we look at some examples of themes and topics, in art and design, we had art and design as public engagement. Now, the nature of art and design means we want students to be doing quite a lot of interpretation. We want to leave them scope to explore their ideas more broadly. And so rather than create descriptions of topics, we have single terms used as the topics. So in this example, art and design as public engagement within the community, or art and design as public engagement as a form of public expression, and so on. A different example taken from construction, the theme was sustainability in the construction industry. And as you can see, with construction, we have much more highly defined topics for the students to work with. the impact of material selection on overall project sustainability, the influence of construction method on project sustainability, improving sustainability through the supply chain, and the role of technology in sustainability through enhanced performance and monitoring. So you can see that in this case, the students have very tightly defined topics to work with. The reason being that within any one of those topics, the student will need to undertake quite a lot of research in order to build up their understanding of that topic in relation to the industry. The relationship between the themes and topics and the unit is crucial. We have to be really careful to remember that the Pearson-set unit is not about the theme and topic. The theme and topic you might consider to be a lens through which you write the assignment. It gives a context for the vocational scenario that will create the frame in which the student undertakes the assignment. The thing to remember is that we are assessing the student's achievement of the learning outcomes, not their achievement of something related to the theme and topic. So we have to make sure that we're writing an assignment that uses the theme and topic to create a context in which the student can achieve the learning outcomes. When choosing a topic, we need to think about what is most relevant to your students. Given your particular geographic location, you may find that certain topics are more or less relevant to your students. If you want to consider the ways that the topic may link to local employers, again, your particular local employment context may mean that some topics are more relevant than others. And we want to encourage you to think about designing assignments that give students an opportunity to explore as many different types of assessment evidence as possible. It's often the case that students can get a little bit disheartened by always being asked to produce a report or an essay or give a presentation. So we would really encourage you to think about ways that you might use the Pearson-set, as well as any other assignment that you're developing, to explore different types of assessment evidence. It might be a video, or it might be a website that you have students design. Whatever it might be, look as broadly as possible. So when we think about writing the assignment for the Pearson-set, we need to consider what are the learning outcomes. What does the student need to evidence at the end of the unit? Remember, learning outcomes define what a student must be able to do at the end of a learning experience, not at the beginning. What is the theme for the year, and which topic, if working at level 4, are we selecting? What is the vocational scenario that we can define in relation to the theme and topic? Remember, the theme and topic is not the subject of the unit. The theme and topic is the lens through which the student can look at the assignment to achieve the learning outcomes. What are we requiring the student to submit for assessment? And again, be as open as you can be to give the students an opportunity to explore different types of assessment evidence. And crucially, how will the theme and topic, combined with that vocational scenario, allow the students to achieve the learning outcomes? If we look at an example of an assignment brief for the Pearson-set in art and design, the 3D design pathway, the topic chosen here is art and design in science. And the submission format is an audiovisual presentation of 15 minutes, 3 A2 presentation boards, and a portfolio of development work. And as we can see, we've got all 4 learning outcomes listed here, which means that this assignment is allowing us to assess all the learning outcomes for this unit. And as you can see, we've included some images to give the students a little more context and help give a flavor to what the nature of this assignment and this vocational context is creating for them. And when it comes to describing the work that the students will do, you can see that it's presentation boards, portfolio, presentation, the same things that were listed in the submission format. And the final page of the assignment brief is the learning outcomes and assessment criteria. And once again, because we're assessing all 4 learning outcomes, we include all the learning outcomes and all of their associated assessment criteria here. This is using the standard Pearson template for an assignment. You may use a different template at your institution, but you must include the same sort of information that is shown here. Now, if we look in a little more detail at what's happening in this assignment, this says the Francis Crick Institute are sponsoring a competition to design and curate an exhibition in the foyer of the Research Centre located next to St Pancras Station, London. The aim of the exhibition is to explore the way art and design has been used in science. The Institute is particularly interested in the way graphic design and product design have been used to promote and sell scientific and medical ideas to the public. And that gives us our vocational context. When we jump down to the section where we start to describe the work that the student will do, we'll notice that we don't flag P1, P2, M1, D1, and so on. What we're doing is we're using the key phrases and language of the assessment criteria to describe what the work must show. We're using that to define how a student can understand what is needed to achieve pass, merit, or distinction. We're not flagging those criteria because we don't want students to feel that there are a set of tasks that they must do. So rather than describe what the student must do, we describe what their work must show us. And you can see that the use of words like justify and explore and assess, evaluate, critical reflection, and so on are picking up the language from the assessment criteria. And the students can make that correlation between the assessment criteria and the assignment brief to be able to see how pass, merit, and distinction are embedded within that assignment brief. Now, this is the standard approach to RQF holistic assessment briefs, and we would really like to see centers embracing this approach because we feel that it gives the students much more opportunity to really start to grapple with questions about how do they understand quality and expectation within their work. How do we integrate employer briefs? So sometimes called live briefs, and we might want to think, what is the nature of that live brief? What is the Pearson-set theme and topic we're working with? And critically, does the live brief map directly to the theme or one of the topics? And if not, what are our options? Might we be able to use the theme and topic as a way of critically reviewing the live project? Can we work with the employer to adjust their brief so that it better maps to the Pearson-set theme and topic? Should we recognize that actually maybe that live brief is a better fit for a different unit? We don't want to force it. We want to make sure it's the right unit for the right live brief. But let's take an example where maybe there isn't that direct correlation in how we might approach that. So in construction, we had sustainability in manufacturing with the topic of sustainability through material selection. And the employer brief asked the students to develop proposals for a new light industrial building. The building was going to be 2 stories tall. The structure had to be reinforced concrete, and the structure must support a secondary structure of aluminum framing for a panelized facade system. The challenges are the employer is not interested in sustainability for the project. They're an aggregate supplier, so they're interested in getting students to use their material. The employer requires students to use aggregates that are supplied by that company, but the aggregates in and of themselves are not sustainably sourced. But the employer is a local company that does employ a lot of students from the course, so we don't want to alienate them. So how might we find a way to fit that employer brief with the Pearson-set? So one way to do it is to actually say, well, we will use the 2 briefs separately. The students will undertake the project brief, doing the employer brief, develop outcomes to meet the requirements of the employer, and they'll present those outcomes to the employer. At the same time, the Pearson-set assignment is overlaid on that, and it uses the theme and topic as a vehicle for students to review their proposal for the employer. So the students can reflect on the development of that proposal and think about ways in which they might modify that proposal to be sustainable. And the students would present that set of outcomes to the college. So you can see that there is some flexibility in the way that we might relate Pearson-set assignment, theme and topic to a live brief from an employer, even if they don't necessarily map directly. So when we're choosing the topic, we want to think about what is the role of the student in that vocational scenario? Are we using an employer live brief? We have to be clear about what the students must do. What will they be submitting? And we're going to use the same or similar command verbs found in the assessment criteria to describe what the work must show. Remember, we're not interested in telling the students what to do. We're not giving them instructions. We're not giving them tasks. We're defining what the work must show. And we need to make sure that the assignment indicates how to achieve pass, merit, and distinction. Every assignment we write must allow a student to achieve pass, merit, or distinction. And remember that the assignment is about achieving the learning outcomes, not just engaging with the theme and topic. Support materials. Every unit in Higher National has an example assignment brief, and along with that, the Pearson-set has a guidance document that you'll find that gives you some additional pointers and some examples of documentation that you might use with the student work. In addition, there are schemes of work for the Pearson-set, and these take the essential content related to the learning outcomes and give you an example of how to deliver the guided learning hours over a number of sessions. We have a lot of other training available. We have particular assignment writing and assessment training that you might be interested in. It takes a much more in-depth look at how to write assignments for the RQF. We also have quality assurance training and other types of training. And if you're interested in some of our training, you can contact Roxana Goldsmith, our training manager, and her email is here. We also have a general inquiries email address, and we also have an email address specifically for quality assurance questions. If you're not yet signed up to the Higher National newsletter, I would really encourage you to do that. It's where we will notify you of the latest release of themes and topics for the Pearson-set, as well as any changes or updates to a qualification. And from time to time, we may ask for your input as we look at developing a new qualification or making modifications to an existing qualification. So please do sign up for the Higher Nationals newsletter. Well, that completes our training video for today, and thank you for your time.